Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to FX Maniac. This is Syed Mahmoud Amiri again, and I know it's been a very long time since my last tutorial, and I truly apologize for that. And I promise to be more consistent after this. And you guys might say like, oh, you're not really great at keeping promises because you also did promise on this tutorial and it took like 2 months after to like post the new tutorials, but it's okay. I will compensate for that. And before we get into this tutorial, I just wanted to thank you guys so much for helping my channel grow every day and liking the videos and subscribing to my channel. And I think you guys deserve a lot more, so that's why I plan to I'm planning to release a lot more tutorials in the upcoming days and weeks. So make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit this bell icon to get the latest videos that I post. So yeah, let's get into today's tutorial. And as you've already guessed, you already searched for it. It is the Maya Ncloth basics, which Ncloth is basically we've done the N particles basics. Now we're going to do the Ncloth, which is the powerful nucleus system for cloth simulation inside of Maya. So I'm going to show you guys how to use it, the basics, and a couple of examples, and hopefully you can learn from it. Alright, so let's get into this. What I'm going to do is, alright, first off, if you don't know how to navigate inside the software, as I tell in all of my tutorials, is like you basically hold down Alt and left mouse click to basically like rotate around the view, like whatever you have. If you have an object like a cube, make it like hit R, scale it up. You can rotate around it. If you want to pan, like move around, you can just Alt click and middle, like hold down Alt and middle click and drag, and you can like pan around the object. And if you want to zoom in and zoom out, of course you can use the wheel of the mouse. And if you want to fit the scene, you can hit F. Alright, so that was the basics. Hit F again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how it works, the cloth engine. So I'm going to go into Windows, General Editor, and I'm sorry if I'm going a bit fast. I'm expecting at least you're just comfortable with like navigating around Maya and you know the basics. So I'm going to go to Window, General Editor, and Content Browser, and I'm going to the animation, the modeling part, the sculpting, and I'm going for bipeds. And I'm gonna get this guy, this character obese. If I zoom out, hit F, you can see it's pretty big, so I'm gonna hit select him, hit R and scale it down, hit F again to fit on this. And since this guy is pretty fat and he probably doesn't do exercise and doesn't go to gym, I'm going to punish him in a way with Ncloth. But before that, okay, let's see what happens if I just turn this into an Ncloth. Alright, so I'm gonna go make sure you are in the effects menu, going to the Ncloth and click on create Ncloth, and that's basically it. You play it and nothing happens because it is not colliding with our floor. You can either create an object or you can go into the outliner. If it's not there, you can go Windows, outliner, click on it and select the nucleus node or whatever it is, and go into the attributes editor and use plane. So now if I play this, you can see that it is colliding with the ground and it falls in a very weird way, which is pretty funny. Yeah, that is what happens if you don't go and exercise. And yeah, that was today's tutorial. See you next time. Oh, I'm joking, by the way. Let's see here. The main thing is when you are having cloth, right, you basically want to be having more detail in order to to see the real sort of movement and motion of that cloth and the flexibility, of course. So in order to add detail in this, I'm just going to select this character, hit F, go into the modeling menu again, go to the mesh and hit smooth. So you can basically make it more high poly. You can add like 2 levels, but that'll be too much for this tutorial, so I'm just gonna add one is probably fine. So now if I play this back again, make sure every time you make a new change, you go into the first frame and then you play the thing so that it can calculate from the beginning. And as you can see, it's looking a bit detailed. and the guy is falling down a very weird way, and I think he deserves it because he's eating a lot of junk food and he doesn't exercise. So yeah, that's what's gonna happen, right? Okay, so let's see a few of the settings. If you select the Ncloth node or whatever it is, and you go into this Ncloth shape, there you have some properties. Basically, the first is the collision. If you turn on this collide, it will collide with different objects, and if you turn on this self collide, it'll collide with itself, which is pretty self-explanatory. So and you have things like bounciness, friction, and stuff, which we'll get into later. And let's see here. The main thing is, for this example, you can go into the dynamic properties and we can see a few settings here. First off, we have like stretch resistance. Sometimes the cloth needs to get stretched, like if you have something like a cloth that is stretching. So how much resistant will this cloth be against the force of stretching? So you can increase that and it'll get more resistant. In this example, it's not showing up because nothing is really stretching here. But if I select this again, probably the default value is like 20, which is fine. And then we have things like bend resistance and compression resistance, which we'll get into a bit later. It's basically like it depends on the different shape of the objects. Like if it is supposed to be compressed, and how much resistant will it be against that compression, which we can increase here. There is like in pressure, we can increase a bit of pressure, and then like if I go back here, you can see now that it'll be like it'll have some sort of an interior sort of pressure. You can see, like it's filled with air or something. You can see that it kind of gets back to its original shape pretty quickly. Like it has like air inside it, and you can increase the timeline to see more. So this is basically the compression resistance is basically controlling how much resistant will it be against this pressure. So you can change that according to your needs, but for now I'm just going to set it like 25. But one of the main things here, which we can see very obviously in this example, is this character is deforming, right? When he falls down, he's deforming the shape, and we can change that, the value for resistance of the deformation. I can just increase this to maybe like 2 or 3. Now if I go back here, so if we've set this to like 2.5, I'm going to go back and then I'll play this, and you can see now it is very resistant against deformation, because see, it goes very slow. Maybe 2.5 is a little too much. So if I change this to like 1, you can see that it does deform, but there's some sort of pressure against it. So that's what this value and this parameter is controlling, and you can see this straightly falling down on his face, which is pretty funny, and again, he deserves it. All right, so yeah, like this is the thing that you can control for this, and for this example I think this is pretty important to know. So like just change it according to your needs. In this case I'm going to set like 0.1, and there's something really cool about this also, some other parameter, which is rigidity, and that is like you can basically do some rigid body simulations with this cloth using this parameter. So if I change this to like 1, you'll see that it will be dynamic, but it'll be like a hard surface. So if I decrease this to like 0.2, it'll be there, but you can see that it's not losing its shape because it's a hard surface. You can use it to like do hard surface things like ground breaking and stuff, which if you want to we can get into in a different tutorial, but this is basically the parameter. We can do a lot of cool like rigid body simulations with this, which surely I'll make another tutorial about this too. So I just wanted to let you know like what is the what is this setting doing, but for this example it's not necessary, so we'll stick with this. So these are some of the most important attributes that you can get in this thing, and I'm just gonna go ahead and show you a few more things and see what if I want this cloth to be tiered, like we want to kill this guy and tear him apart, tear his skin. So what you can do is you can go into the vertices, like right click and go into the vertex, and I'm going to, you can go from any view, you can hit spacebar from any view and select some faces, like on his arms, on his belly, and on his chest, and on his head even, and his legs, and some other parts. Randomly you can select. And these areas that I've selected, I wanted to tear apart when the simulation happens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the effects menu, go into the end constraint, and constraints are basically like controlling or kind of constraining the like motion of the dynamics and stuff. So here's an option, it's called tearable surface. It's for cloth, and you can click on it, and now we have a constraint for tearable surfaces. So if I play this, but I don't think it will happen right now because there is not like an outside force. I think it did happen here. You can see that it's already, you know, it's already torn apart, which is pretty cool. Yep. But his hand is pretty it looks pretty cool, you know, his hand is gone. I like that one, you know. So, but if you don't want to see these dots of the constraint, you can just select this dynamic constraint, hit H and hide it. You can see it's looking pretty cool already, you know. But let's see if I want to add some external forces. So the good thing is if you select the cloth and you go into fields and solvers, you have all these fields and forces that you can use, you know. Let's see here. I want to use a vortex node force. You can name it whatever, you know, I don't know. The magnitude is basically how much, and the attenuation is basically the scale of the object, which I can show you now. So we'll set this like 1 and set this magnitude to 100 and create. Now if I play this, you can see that it is rotating around, you know, that vortex field is affecting it, and you can see it's looking pretty cool already. His hand is gone, and you know, he's in a bad condition. All of that just because he's not exercising. I think you should go to the gym. Alright, but make sure when you apply, which I've seen some other times in some other tutorials of mine, like people are having problem with these forces, make sure when you apply the force you are selecting the Ncloth and then applying it, because otherwise it won't work. Alright, so let's see here, the I don't know, which is the vortex. It's pretty confusing. If you want to increase the strength, you can go up the magnitude, and you can see that it's already, you know, it's too much, and 2 of his hands are gone. That is cool. Alright, and as I said, the attenuation is basically the scale of like how much, and if you see, now it's going pretty wild, and he's gone. Alright, I'm just gonna turn this to like 0.75, and that's basically it. Alright, so yeah, these are some of the basics of Ncloth and some fun things that you can do with it. And I just want to show you guys one more last thing, because if we don't get into that, you know, it won't be a complete cloth tutorial, and that is to create a flag animation, which is, you know, that is old school, you might call it, or you know, whatever it is, but it is, I think it's a necessity to having a cloth basics tutorial. So I'm just, you can save it, or you can do some fun animation with this, you know, just like, you know, render it, you know, add some lights, you know, do some stuff, but I'll let you guys play with it. I just showed you like the basics. I'm just gonna create a new scene, and let's build a flag and like animation. So I'm gonna go and I'm going to create a cylinder first for the pool, and I'm going to drop the radius down. I'm gonna right click and select the top vertices and move it up so that it's like, this is basically the pool for the flag, right? And I'm gonna right click, go into the object mode, move it up, and from the front view I'm just going to create, or just create a plane here. Shift right click, and I'm going to add a plane, scale it up, and rotate it like 90 degrees, or minus 90 in this case. And I'm going to move this up, sorry, move it up here. Make sure the scale is fine, so I'm just going to scale this like a bit horizontally. And the main thing for a flag is, if you want it to be more like detailed and high quality, you need to increase the number of segments, which we can go into. Hit Control A if you're not in the channel box, go into polyplane and select this subdivision width and height, and middle click and drag to the right to increase the number of segments. So I'm just gonna stick with 30 for now, but you can increase it definitely in the future. So now if I select this and I go into Ncloth and create Ncloth, and I even go into the nucleus node or whatever it is, I don't know, use plane, which is basically use this ground as a plane. So if I go back here, you can see that it falls down and it just stays there, and it's not like colliding with this thing even, and it's not, it should stick there, it should not move down. So what I'm going to do is move this a bit to the right side, and I'm going to select the vertices and select this the left last edges, and I go into the constraint, and there's another one, is called the transform constraint, and what it basically does is going to lock those points into that position. So now you can see that it's there, and even if I move this, now if I play this, you can see that the cloth is going to stick there, it's going to keep colliding with itself and stuff. But we have one problem, it's not colliding with the pool. So I'm just going to select this pool, and I'm going to the Ncloth menu again, create passive collider. And what it's going to do is basically it's going to change it into a collider object, which is going to be colliding with all the dynamics, particles, cloth, and hair, and everything. So I'm just going to go into create passive collider, and if I play this right now, you can see that it is colliding with the pool, and but there is a problem again. There's no wind here. Okay, so for that wind part, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the Ncloth again, and we can use a combination of a few solvers. First off, I'm just going to add the uniform solver and make sure that direction is x1, and magnitude, we can change it later. Now if I play this, you can see that it is moving, but it should be like, I think, x negative. Let's see here. And if I increase this magnitude, we can see it a little better. 250, go back and then play it. Yeah, it's there, but it's not that realistic, you know. It just stays there in the air, and we don't have that much like wind, you know. It's kind of looking a bit, it's fine, but it's not that realistic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the Ncloth again, and I'm going to go into the field and solver, and I'm going to add a turbulence, which is going to make it look pretty random and wild, and increase the magnitude, and the attenuation probably like 0.65, and we can change that later. So now you can see that we have that fluent wind motion. We can even increase it to like 150. It's not looking that like flat anymore and stuff, right? Yep. Yeah, and that's it. Okay, so this is basically how you create a flag, and you can add any texture you want, render it out, or even like you can go and like, you know, tear it apart just like we did before. Select some verts, you know, select some vertices like in this area, and this and this and that, and go into the end constraint and tearable surface. So if I play this now, if the force is powerful enough, you can see that the flag is tearing. One part was torn, but these parts, I think the force is not strong enough to be able to tear it. So I'm going to go into the uniform and make it like 500, and now we'll see here. Now you can see it's torn. So yeah, this was the Ncloth basics tutorial for Maya, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you've learned something from it. And I'm sorry if I'm going a little fast. You can, and you know, if you have any questions, anything that you know missed, or you still have doubts with, or any suggestions for the future tutorials, make sure to leave them in the comments section for the tutorial, and I'll be more than glad to answer those questions. And as I said, I just want to thank you again for supporting my channel, and be sure to subscribe because I'll be posting a lot of new tutorials in the upcoming weeks and days. And as I always say, till then, enjoy working.